Hello everyone, welcome to another edition of Pete's CD LP World. Today I wanted to review the latest Who album, simply called Who. This is actually the Target version. It has 3 extra songs on it. This Gun Will Misfire, Got Nothing to Prove, and Danny and My Ponies. So my first impressions of this album, I really liked it a lot. I listened to it in my car for a few weeks. And the songs are pretty good. Starts off with All This Music Must Fade. This is probably the most Who-like song on the album. Would say that it's in the style of maybe something on Face Dancers or so. This album is Pete, Roger, Zach Starkey, Pino Palladino on bass, and I'm not sure who plays keyboards on it, but I know a couple tracks that Zach Starkey didn't play drums on. All This Music Must Fade is basically a good rocker to open the song. Ball and Chain was a song that Pete Townshend, I believe, had on a Greatest Hits album recently called Guantanamo, and it was reworked for this album. Another pretty good song. I Don't Want to Get Wise, another rocker, probably in the same vein of Face Dances. Next track up is Detour, which sort of reminds me of Magic Bus in a way, just the feel of it. And then comes the next song, which I think is the best song on the album. It's called Beads on One String. It's just a mid-tempo song, not Who-like at all. But I can definitely hear the song being on soundtracks to movies in the future, even like going on the end credits, that type of thing. It's definitely the one song that stuck with me as being a standout track here. Hero Ground Zero, another good rocker, as well as Street Song. I'll Be Back is a ballad sung by Pete. When you first hear it, it sounds just like a straight ahead ballad, but when you listen to the lyrics, it's more about him being reincarnated as a ghost and returning to his girlfriend or wife. That's the way I took the song, but it's pretty interesting. Break This News is another song I could picture hearing in a movie soundtrack somewhere, either a commercial or the end credits. It sort of has that feel-good Irish vibe to it. Definitely not Who-like at all, but again, another good song. Rockin' in Rage is another song that I would say is very Who-like. Again, Face Dances era. And the album closes with She Rocks My World, which is sort of like a blues lounge singer type song. Probably my least favorite song on the album. Then the bonus tracks on here are, I'm assuming, 3 demos. They're all sung by Pete. The first one, This Gun Will Misfire. It kind of sounds like a song that would be on a Pete Townshend solo album, but overall a pretty good song. Got Nothing to Prove. This song is a demo from the 60s, and I think it sounds like they've added the horns and strings to it recently. And you could just tell by Pete's voice that it's a demo from the 60s, and I did look it up online that it had been. This is my son's favorite song on the album. Every time he heard it, he says it sounded like something that should be in an Austin Powers movie, and it does have that 60s London feel to it. And the last song is Danny and My Ponies, which is a pretty good ballad. Again, more of something that would be on a Pete Townshend solo album. Which, as I listened to this album over and over, I got the feeling that this wasn't so much as a Who album as kind of like a Pete Townshend solo album with Roger Daltrey on vocals. And a lot of people, after Keith Moon passed away, they weren't a big fan of It's Hard and Face Dances, which I was a big fan of because that's the Who that I was really introduced to first. So I actually like those albums a lot. I wasn't that taken with their last album, Endless Wire. In fact, I'm going to listen to that again and probably do a review on that because I only listened to it a few times when it came out. This album is definitely an improvement on there. It's definitely a more band-oriented album. It's not a concept album at all. And The funny thing about this album is, I believe Roger said that in terms of the 3 bonus tracks, he said, I don't understand why they did that. They're crap or whatever. Maybe because he didn't sing on them or not. But that's probably the reason I didn't get this on vinyl, is because Target had this exclusive version. I think they had a version of this on vinyl, but that was like $50 or $60 with the 3 bonus tracks. So I didn't want to bother get that either. What really annoyed me, I found out that there's another version with a song called Sand, which is another demo from the 60s. I don't know if it's the Japanese version, but that didn't have these 3 songs, and this version didn't have that one song. So I can't stand when bands do that, really. I did listen to that song online, and maybe it's from one of his Scoop albums that they just revised or added some tracks to. Overall, it's definitely not a rocking Who album. Is some rocking songs on here. I kind of feel like if this album had been put out in the 90s, it would have been a big seller, but the way things are now, obviously nobody buys new albums or cares about new music from classic artists, which is unfortunate, especially for a band like The Who, who's only put out 2 albums since 1982, really. A lot of these other classic bands are putting out an album every year, which I don't get because nobody's hearing those songs or listening to them. I think they're playing a couple songs from this album live, which is cool. They're on their supposedly farewell tour, but they just keep adding dates to it. But overall, what I think is missing from this album, surprisingly, is not Keith Moon, but John Entwistle. Because they've seemed to replace him with a whole host of musicians to fill that sound. His bass was sort of almost like the lead instrument in the band. And I was fortunate to see them live on the 2002 tour. It was a couple weeks after John Entwistle passed away, but they were still touring as a 5-piece band. It was Pete, Zach, John Burtnick on keyboards, and Pino Palladino and Simon Townshend on guitar. So it was basically a small rock band. Now they've added all background singers and multiple keyboard players, and I think there's even another guitar player in addition to Simon. So I'm not real crazy about that part of it. But hey, this is for guys in their 75 years old. This is a really good album, and it's better than the one that they put out 10 years ago or so. So I was definitely impressed with it and enjoyed the album a lot. And if this is their last album, I would say they're leading off on a high note. So thanks again for watching, and hopefully I'll have a new video up in the next couple days. Thanks.